issues important to your life and faith. Spiritual insight, practical wisdom. Join us as we transform the world one woman at a time. Now, here's your host, Johnette Williams.
Yeah, sorry, not Johnette Williams. Johnette's a little under the weather today, so keep her in your prayers. This is her dutiful husband, Jack Williams, general manager of EWTN Radio, host of EWTN's Open Line, sitting in for her today, but fear not. It is indeed Wacky Wednesday. You will not be deprived of your Wacky Wednesday. Sue Brinkmann is indeed in the house, and she is ready to de-wackify all the wacky stuff that's going on out there for your benefit. If you'd like to be part of the program, grab one of these open phone lines now. That's my advice to you. 833-288-EWTN. That's our toll-free number. It is a free telephone call anywhere in the United States and Canada. 833-288-3986. If you're outside of the United States and Canada, there's wacky stuff going on there too. That number is 1-205-271-2985, and we'll even put you straight to the front of the line at 1-205-271-2985. And you can always send us an email. That email address is womenofgrace@EWTN.com. That's Women of Grace, all one word, at EWTN.com. As I mentioned, I'm Jack Williams, sitting in today for Johnette. Jeff Burson producing the program, behind the glass, spinning the dials. Your call screener is Matt Gubensky. And your social media maven, of course, Jeff Burson, doubling up as he does every day on Women of Grace. So if you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook Live, you can type a question into the chat window, and it may find its way to us by the end of the program. Some upcoming events for Women of Grace. The Advent Journey to Grace, bringing Jesus to the world, right here in Birmingham, Alabama, this Saturday, December 2nd. I can't walk around campus without being accosted by someone who is excited about this Journey to Grace, bringing Jesus to the world day here in Birmingham. It's going to be at Our Lady of Sorrows Catholic Church, and it's going to run from 8 a.m. Central Time until noon Central Time. So prepare your heart this Advent for the coming of Christ and learn more about your authentic femininity. It's free for women and middle school and high school aged girls. So bring your friends if you're in the area, if you are living in the area, if you're going to be driving through the area, anything that brings you near Birmingham. You want to take advantage of this. There are some powerful ladies in this diocese that are itching to get things going, especially we've got some dynamic people that really want to. They've had get a load of this. They've had a Young Women of Grace group that has been meeting for several years now. These girls come in at 6:30 in the morning on Wednesdays, and they meet, and they have been consistent with this. They've got wonderful, just a force of nature, Miss Cindy Westbrook, that has led that group. She'll be at the event on Saturday. Kindergarten teachers are not made, they are born. And she was born a kindergarten teacher and has been a teacher at Our Lady of Sorrows there in Birmingham for many, many years. And along with Olivia DeShera is helping her, one of her first grade teachers at Our Lady of Sorrows, who actually graduated from John Carroll Catholic High School right here in Birmingham with my daughter, Katie. So they will be on hand this Saturday, so you don't want to miss it. And, of course, the big deal for this year, the 20th anniversary of Women of Grace, the founding of the apostolate coming up. And to celebrate that, we're heading to Mexico City on pilgrimage. I do not know what the status of the pilgrimage is. Something is telling me now that I've brought it up that it's sold out, but I don't know. You can call, you can look into it, check in on the website, and see if maybe there's any room left for that. But we're not only going to be in Mexico City. Our Lady of Guadalupe at the shrine Women of Grace is under the co-patronage of Our Lady of Guadalupe, but we're going to be there on the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. How about that? Our Feast of the Lady of Guadalupe. And we also are going to have an opportunity to tour Blessed Conchita's home, and this woman is amazing. She has written more articles than I have ever read, and she was a mother of a bunch and had so many things on her plate that you'd never believe in a million years that she could have gotten all this done, but she did. So it's going to be a wonderful time. We're going to be filming some Women of Grace television episodes while we're there, so you'll get to witness that and maybe even be a part of that. 2 of our friars here at EWTN are going to be coming with us on that trip. So it's going to be just a great time to be had by all. That's Father Leonard and Father Joseph are coming on the pilgrimage with us. Of course, Johnette will be there. I will be there. Give me a nod, Sue Brinkmann. Are you going to Mexico City or no? She's not going to Mexico City. So now, but, you know, she'll be with us in spirit, and we'll carry that Carmelite wind with us in our sails as we're in Mexico City. But be sure to check that out on the EWTN, not the EWTN, how am I doing? On the Women of Grace website, and also a Morning of Grace and an Evening of Grace coming out. These are wonderful little gatherings that will help to strengthen you on your journey. You know, we can't. I went to a retreat once, and the lay director of the retreat said something during his talk that has always stuck with me. And he talked about how great the weekend was and how magnificent the retreat was. But he said, you know, these moments are fleeting, and we have to be diligent about maintaining our own spiritual health, keeping ourselves pumped up. And one great way to do that are these periodic mornings of grace and evenings of grace. So there'll be a morning of grace on Tuesday, December 12th, and then an evening of grace, if that suits your schedule a little bit better, will be on the evening of Thursday, December 14th. And then if we look a little bit further into the future, there's a big Catholic Women's Conference that's coming up at Our Lady of Victory Catholic Church, and that is in State College, Pennsylvania. I know Johnette is extremely excited about this particular event. She is an alumnus of Penn State University, which is located right there in State College, and so she's kind of heading back home to a certain extent. She's very excited about the opportunity to be in her old stomping grounds. That's going to be Saturday, February 17th in 2024. Saturday, February 17th, 2024. It'll run from 9 a.m. Eastern to 3 p.m. Eastern. So if you are in the area, or if you can get yourself in the area in February, that would be another terrific opportunity for you to take advantage of. Sue Brinkmann's in the house. Wacky Wednesday coming up right around the corner. You can find out more details on everything we've just talked about. Simply log on to womenofgrace.com.
Is something stopping you from becoming a Catholic? I'm here to help. This is Dr. David Anders. Join me this afternoon, 2 Eastern, for Call to Communion on EWTN Radio.
EWTN uses the power of radio to reach people whenever and wherever they're searching for answers to questions about their Catholic faith. EWTN Radio is heard on over 500 domestic and international AM and FM radio affiliates. For a complete list of programs and how to hear EWTN Radio, visit EWTN.com and click Radio. EWTN, the Global Catholic Network.
There's nothing like EWTN's National Catholic Register. Revealing, engaging, inspiring. The most comprehensive news of the day from a Catholic perspective, with the moral authority that comes from being faithful to the teachings of the Catholic Church. And in the words of our founder, Monsignor Matthew Smith, a paper that will always be loyal to the Church and has no selfish axe to grind. Because the truth when the Register was founded in 1927 is still the truth today. The award-winning National Catholic Register helps readers engage the culture with confidence in the saving and sanctifying gospel of Jesus Christ. Get 6 free issues today by ordering online at ncregister.com/radio or call 800-421-3230 and mention code RADIO. That's 800-421-3230 and mention code RADIO. The National Catholic Register. Read faithfully.
Join EWTN Radio for our series of Advent reflections on the readings from the 4 Sundays of Advent, Sunday at 4 and 9 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
This is EWTN, Catholic Radio.
It's unmistakable. Sue Brinkmann must be in the house. I have to remind myself that this is the music that's associated with the stuff Sue is going to talk about. This is not the music that is associated with Sue. So we want to make that perfectly clear. Discover the beauty, truth, and goodness of the Church with the EWTN online learning series. You can delve into the riches of the faith and grow closer to our Lord with free videos and study guides. EWTN invites you to be still and sit with the Lord in his sandals. Our online video reflections with EWTN Chaplain Father Joseph Mary Wolf. You can enroll in the courses today at learningseries.ewtn.com. Sue.
Yes.
Witches in a bottle. What in
Witches
the
in a
world
bottle.
is going on?
Well, first, I have to ask you a question. You came up with a really great word, Jack.
Yes.
De-wackify.
Yes.
What does de-wackify mean?
It's going to
You have
tell
to run
you.
that by Johnette.
It's
you know?
going to,
'Cause
yeah,
what
but
does
it's,
wacky
well,
mean?
what you do here is it's wacky because people don't understand it. And
Exactly.
once you point out that there's really, in many cases, nothing to be understood, it's just a bunch of nonsense, it is then de-wackified.
All right, I like it. That's a great word. We're going to start using that one. Come here to be de-wackified on Wacky Wednesday.
That's
All
right. So what
yeah.
about these bottles?
Beach?
Yeah, I want no part. I want no part of them, by the way.
What's that?
I want no part of them, by the way.
No,
I mean, forget
they're
about
telling
New
you-
Age stuff. The things just sound unsanitary.
Well, they are, and some of them have been floating around for like no one knows how long they've been floating around. One of them they found had barnacles growing all over it. That's how long it had been out there. But these bottles are washing up all along the shores of the Gulf of Mexico in Texas near Corpus Christi, and they contain these strange objects that are supposedly used by witches to trap malevolent spirits. The story that I found about it was from Fox News. And they're coming up along that 60-mile stretch near Corpus Christi. And I thought, well, isn't that kind of funny, Corpus Christi? And it's where these witches' bottles are coming up along. But 8 of the bottles have washed up there since 2017, and one of them was just found like a week ago. And it was filled with vegetation, and it was covered in barnacles, which indicated that it had been in the water for some time. And the researcher who found this thing, he's from the Hart Institute for the Gulf of Mexico Studies, Jace Tunnell is his name. He says, I don't get creeped out by them, but I'm also not going to open them because they're always corked. The bottles are corked. They're supposed to have spells and all kinds of stuff in them is what he said. But they're frequently filled with these items like hair, herbs, nails. Human urine is a big thing. It's almost always in them. Pins. And they've been observed mostly in England in modern day. So it's the witchcraft that's going on today that's creating these bottles. But really the only clue to the origins of them really depends on the weather and the tide patterns. But he believes some of them are coming from the Caribbean and from South America, because one of the items found was like this thin yellowish glass vinegar bottle, and that's typical of bottles that are manufactured in Haiti. So they're thinking, okay, some of them might be coming up from South America and from the Caribbean.
Yeah, that makes more sense. The shores of Texas that'd be quite a journey from England. That would
Yeah, it
that
really
would be a
would.
magical jet stream right there.
That's for sure. How it would end up over here, I don't know. But back in the 16th and the 17th century, this is really where they originated. There was this belief, of course, in witches, and that we still have that belief in witches, and their ability to cause illness by casting spells. But people believed evil spells could be fended off by trapping them in these bottles. And if the bottle was properly prepared, it could actually reflect the spell itself outward and torment the witch who had cast the spell in the first place, leaving the witch with no option but to remove the spell. So that's why they would trap the spell in the bottle, because that was supposedly going to, this is all superstition now, but this was because it was supposed to torment the witch. And that's why they would put the nails in there. And they would often put these bottles, they would bury them by their hearth to energize the nails into breaking that witch's spell, or to make her very, very uncomfortable. Now, one of them was found in 2008 that was filled with 50 bent copper alloy pins and a few rusty nails and a bit of wood or bone. And it was known as the Holywell Witch Bottle. And that dates to 1670 to 1710, somewhere in there. And that was, supposedly some form of ritual protection. They find them in buildings, usually around the entry points, doors, windows, mostly across the British Isles, but then they were brought over here to us in the United States during the colonization of America. So they were brought over here, and we have found some over here. Now, 200 of them have been found in Great Britain, less than a dozen in the United States, but some of them now are starting to show up again on the shores of Texas. So what should you do if you come across one of these strange artifacts? And the Fox News writer says to you, you should really leave the stopper corked. Whether or not, you believe in the spirits, to avoid any potential biohazard too, because the stuff that's inside, who knows how long it's been in there, and what's growing on it. So you don't really want to be fooling around with the bottle, and probably take it to a historical society or something. But the interesting thing too about this, why is it always urine in there? And they believe that started during the 17th and 18th centuries, because urinary problems were so common, and the victims of bladder stones and other UTIs and stuff like that, they didn't have anything to treat that, so they would resort to this kind of thing, and they would use a witch bottle to transfer the pains of the illness from themselves back to the witch. So that's really where the history of these things. I thought it was very fascinating to read it, what it was about, and it's got everybody in a tizzy, because it's a whole lot of different news organizations are reporting on this. Witch bottles are found along the coast, and they've got curses in them, and all kinds of evil spirits are trapped in them. And actually, it's mostly a superstition. That's not to say that curses don't work. They do. If you're calling upon demonic spirits and forces, powers that are not sourced in God, you're calling upon demons, and yeah, those spells and those curses can absolutely work. But as far as what's in that bottle, chances are if you were uncork it, it's probably just going to be something that's a biohazard, and you really wouldn't have to worry about it. But they're advising against that and saying to just leave them there. But they're kind of rolling up here on our beaches quite frequently lately, and so that's telling me that, well, we all know witchcraft is alive and well out there, Jack. I mean, it's very popular among young girls, which is very disturbing. But that's where they're going for empowerment.
So you mentioned that you definitely don't want to uncork them if you were to come across them. How would you dispose of it? I'm assuming you don't want to just leave it in the water, because then the next person down the line is going to be subjected to the same thing you were. How would you get rid of them? Is there any protocol there?
I would take it to a historical society. Take it to them, because it could have some historical relevance, and I would take it somewhere like that, or to a university, to the archaeological department or something. I wouldn't just throw it away, though, Jack. I wouldn't throw it away, because it is history. This is history in here. We can learn from it. It's just, don't get to fooling around with whatever's in it.
Is there any threat is there any threat of opening yourself up to anything by handling one of these things?
It depends on what's in there. Depends on what kind of a curse was in there. If somebody put a curse in a bottle, and they were invoking a demon to do that, that curse could very well be active, and it could happen to you because of not because of the witch, because of the devil that he's doing it. So I really wouldn't fool around with the bottle if I found it. Just knowing what I do know about curses and spells and magic and that sort of thing, I would just take it to an authority, historian of some kind, either a university or to your local historical center. Almost all towns have it, some kind of little historical center. Take it there and let them figure out what to do with it.
Pick up the phone and give us a call with any of your questions about the New Age or anything that's going on. The number's 833-288-EWTN. We have wide open phone lines for you at 833-288-3986. You know, Sue, this whole New Age genre it's kind of like water. Like sometimes, you know, even unseeable cracks that exist will allow it to seep into places. And we're starting to see these New Age ideas creeping in just about everywhere, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely. It's getting into our hospital system, and it's really beginning to saturate our hospital systems. It's everywhere in there. And, you know, get this, Jack, it's not because the hospital administrators, which are mostly MBAs now, they're not doctors, they're MBAs, and they're just given what the public wants. And the public has all this distrust of modern medicine because of these New Age purveyors. They're the ones who are spreading all these rumors about, you know, how bad science is and how they're hiding all kinds of cures because they want to make money and blah 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 blah. It's mostly the administrators of the hospitals. They're giving people what they're asking for, and they're asking for alternatives. They want to see something else. And they're getting into hospitals. So they let them in there, not because they think they work, but because that's what people are asking for. So they're allowing things in there like, I'm going to say Reiki. A dear friend of our ministry fell recently, broke both of her legs, and just wrote to me recently an email and said, Sue, you wouldn't believe all the people that come in there trying to give me acupuncture or Reiki. I think Reiki is direct communication with the occult. That's what Reiki is. It's contacting the Reiki source, which was sources with a capital S. And what you do is the Reiki master serves as the channel for that source, for that entity, and that you channel it, and it tells you how to manipulate that person's energy, which we're talking now about chi. We're not talking about veritable energy. We're talking about putative energy, which is totally unsubstantiated. That's chi, prana, universal life force, anything that sounds like that. That's a putative form of energy that really doesn't exist. But this is what's happening in the hospitals. It's coming in there. People are being offered this, let's say Reiki, as a massage. Oh, would you like to be massaged? And then they pull out the Reiki. Now, I know of a nurse who really went to great lengths. And in fact, I have a whole blog about it on our New Age blog. She tried to convince hospitals to provide full disclosure to patients after alternatives like Reiki, acupuncture, yoga are being introduced to them to protect those patients from possible spiritual conflicts. What if they I don't know how many people have written to us to say, oh, Sue, when I was in the hospital, they did a Reiki on me. What's going to happen to me? You know, you're causing them spiritual conflict by just letting these people come in there and do it. And then when the patient finds out later what they've been involved in, they feel guilty and terrible about it. So Dr. Edzard Ernst, somebody I really admire him. He writes, he's a prolific writer. He was the world's first professor of complementary and alternative medicine at Exeter University in the UK. And he just disagrees with all of this conspiracy theories and complaints about, you know, the current medical establishment that's become too politicized and people are out to make money and they're too cold-hearted and uncaring in there. And the proponents of alternative medicine on the to the contrary, they're so wonderful and caring and compassionate. They need to spend more time with their patients, and they're willing to do that. Dr. Ernst says no. He says, I disagree with that. He said that whole argument is a classic straw man. It deliberately exaggerates the weaknesses of modern medicine and proposes that its defects can be repaired by adding unproven or disproven treatments to the system. So even though, alternative practitioners, they have time, they have empathy and compassion, but they don't have anything that works. Their stuff is not evidence-based. It's implausible and it's bogus. And yet they're introducing it in hospitals. And in fact, nurses are being trained in this stuff. So I think it's very sad. And the Reiki, for one, you need to be really careful about this, because that Reiki practitioner is calling upon an entity. They call it the Reiki source. They're calling upon an entity. And that entity, depending on what else they're involved in, hey, that could become attached to you if it decides it wants to. And God allows that, because we always got to remember that God controls Satan. But if you're not with God and you don't care about it, you could be potentially harmed by these things. Got to be really careful. Anything about this integrated medicine, check it out. Even like if pastors at parishes, they're putting ads from chiropractors. There's a lot of great chiropractic work going on out there. I'm not dissing chiropractors, but chiropractors are also prone to introduce a lot of new age and untested alternatives. They often feature energy medicine of one kind or another. And pastors need to be careful and exercise due diligence before they allow them to advertise in their church bulletins. Check out their websites and make sure that they're not doing that. They're not offering any kind of energy medicine in addition to their chiropractic care. Too few pastors are aware that the Vatican document, Jesus Christ, the bearer of the water of life, refers to the energy underlying these practices as the New Age God. Yeah. And they better be careful, because if they have these people on their premises during their health fairs and somebody gets hurt, who's going to be liable for that? Could be the parish.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned the fact that the CFO is really the driving force behind the hospital now, and that's not a medical person. That is a business, an MBA, trained business person that's really most concerned with the bottom line of the hospital.
Exactly.
And I think that I think that opens a door for people that are into this kind of stuff to get their foot in the door, because they can sell the notion that this is going to be good for your bottom line.
Exactly. And that's what's happening. That's how it's getting in here. And it's not at Catholic hospitals. Not all of them are Catholic hospitals. The person who wrote to me that I put her email on the blog, that was in a Catholic hospital. Now, if Catholic hospitals are not supposed to be using Reiki, and if they are using Reiki, the Catholic U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops issued a statement in 2009 condemning it, calling it inappropriate for Catholic institutions. So if you are in a Catholic institution and they are using Reiki on the premises, you can write to that bishop and report that hospital for doing that. That's not supposed to be in there. But unfortunately, it's in all the other hospitals.
Yeah.
And they're using it for that reason, because people want alternatives. Why? Because they're buying into all these conspiracy theories about modern medicine and how it's out to get people, and they're hiding the cure to cancer because they want to make money and all this kind of stuff. So you got to be really careful not to buy that far into it, that you're allowing yourself now to use things that are untested or have been outright disproven to do what they're saying that they're doing. And you just got to be careful of that, especially if it's some kind of a life or death disease or condition that you're fighting with there. That could be potentially very dangerous for you.
Well, we need to keep our Catholic hospital system in our prayers. It has certainly been co-opted to a certain extent. It seems that more and more Catholic hospitals are coming underneath the umbrella of fewer corporations that are overseeing all of this, and we really need to, a lot of times they'll take a religious sister from the founding order and put them on the board as sort of a token, but we really need to hold our Catholic hospitals' feet to the fire and tell them that we expect certain things from Catholic hospitals, and we expect them to deliver it. Back in a minute, Women of Grace with Sue Brinkmann, Wacky Wednesday.
Hi, I'm Doug Keck, inviting you to join me next time when our guest author is Sister Mary Josepha of the Eucharist, OSB, the book Brides of Christ.
We are purified through those trials. And this is especially important for a bride of Christ because we're here for our own sanctification, but also to obtain graces for people throughout the world.
That's Sister Mary Josepha of the Eucharist, next time on Bookmark.
Saturdays at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, Sundays at 9:30 a.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
This is a Pro-Life Minute with doctors Stephen and Gracie Christie.
Steve, what do you say when you hear this very common pro-choice argument? An embryo or fetus is just a part of a woman's body, and a woman can do whatever she wants with her own body.
Right, the classic body part argument. The embryo is in no way a part of the mother's body. Science clearly defines body part as a structure that shares the same genetic code as the rest of the body, like the appendix or a tonsil or an arm, and it does not direct its own development. The unborn child has a completely unique genetic code. Half the time, it has a different sex than its own mother, and it also directs its own development. So the embryo is clearly a separate living human being residing temporarily inside his or her mother.
That's the science of the matter.
For more on the culture of life, go to EWTN.com/pro-life.
Your favorite EWTN radio programs are all over social media. All your favorite programs are available right now. Check us out on Instagram. Just search for EWTN Radio. Remember, EWTN is everywhere.
Hi, this is Cy Kellett. Join us later today on Catholic Answers Live as we do our best to explain and defend the Catholic faith. Catholic Answers Live, 6 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Women of Grace.
Join in on the conversation. The Women of Grace phone lines are open. 1-833-288-EWTN, 1-833-288-3986.
Do what she told you. Pick up the phone. Give us a call with your New Age question for our New Age blogger and researcher, Sue Brinkmann. The number is 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. First up today on the phones is Ernest in the great state of South Carolina, listening on Sirius XM Channel 130. Ernest, you are on with Sue Brinkmann.
Good morning. How's everyone?
Terrific. What can we do for you?
Well, I'm calling because I have questions about generational effects of like sins of our fathers and things like that. There's a lot of news going on about Freemasons. And I happen to be my middle name is Mason, the name of my father, his father. And so, I'm starting to be concerned with the possibility of the generational effects of Freemasonry. My dad was a Mason in the Masonic Lodge. I don't really have any recollection as to any level that he might have been at, but I do know that he was somehow involved. And so this is all coming to the forefront lately, and it's consuming me.
Yeah, so we're having a little bit of trouble with your phone, Ernest, but I think I've got the gist of your question. So I think Ernest's middle name is Mason, and his son's name was Mason, and this kind of perpetuated itself before Ernest really came to the full realization of what Freemasonry is all about. And I think he's concerned about what effect this may have had, these names, and what effect they might have going forward, Sue.
Okay, the name of Mason has nothing to do with Masonry. It's just a name. And you should not change that name because of what the Masons are doing. I find this happening a lot. Whereas mindfulness is a good example of it. People don't want to use the word mindful anymore because it can mean this Buddhist practice. Do not let those people co-opt our language. I don't think that's right. I don't think it was. But if that name Mason has any connection at all to perhaps involvement in Masonry, then I would consider doing that. Then I would consider doing it.
And I think that's what bothers him is that the entire reason he was named Mason is because of their Masonic involvement.
Okay. So if his family, first of all, he needs to get deliverance from that. He would need to see a priest and have himself. There's prayers that you can say, CatholicExorcism.org or .com, one or the other. I'll look it up. They have some good prayers on there. The book by Father Chad Ripperger, Deliverance Prayers for the Laity, which are prayers that we can use. That has the prayers to break any involvement that you might have had ancestrally in Freemasonry, you want to do that. Then if you were named that because of Masonry and that's making you kind of uncomfortable, even though you break away from that, then I would say, yeah, I would consider changing it and getting another name and to have nothing to do with Masonry at all, especially because you were named that apparently by a relative who, a parent or whoever who was involved in Masonry. So you might want to do that. If you have a priest that you can talk to, I would sit down and talk with him and try to just see what he has to say about it. But yeah, I would be pretty uncomfortable with that too.
Yeah, and I think that's really probably
or stop using it.
Yeah, that's always your middle name. That's always the first step, is to consult a good holy priest that you trust, huh?
Mm-hmm. I think so. I think it would be a good idea to do that, and to just CatholicExorcism.org is where you could go to get those prayers. If you've not already done that, you may have already done it, Ernest. I'm not sure, but that's a good idea to do it. And then you break free of it completely. And if that final break is changing that name, and that's going to make you feel good, then I think you should go ahead and do it. But as we're saying here, if you have a priest you can talk to, I would feel better if you ran it by him first and just let him know what your situation is.
God bless you, Ernest. We'll keep you in our prayers, to be sure. Plenty of open phone lines for you at 833-288-EWTN. Lots of time for your phone calls still at 833-288-3986. Sue.
Yes.
A little birdie told me that there's a new man in your life.
A new man?
Some guy by the name of Ramtha?
Hey, he's not in my life. No way is he in my life. No way is he in my life.
What's going on with this guy?
Oh, Ramtha. Yeah, this is a 35,000-year-old. Now, what I'm telling you is all true, okay? I'm not making this up. It's not a joke. He's a 35,000-year-old spiritual entity who appeared to a woman by the name of Judith Darlene Hampton in the kitchen of her trailer in Tacoma, Washington, and announced himself as being, I am Ramtha, the enlightened one, and I have come to help you over the ditch. And he says, I don't understand because I'm a simple person, so I looked to see if the floor was still underneath the chair. And he said, it is called the ditch of limitation, and I am here, and we are going to do a grand work together. Because when he mentioned the ditch, she didn't know what he was talking about, and she thought, and her husband was there with her, and the two of them were listening to this creature who appeared in the kitchen of her home. And now he has all these teachings. The basic philosophy of Ramtha is typical New Age drivel. I guess Ramtha had access to the internet because it's all over. Whatever he's saying, everybody else has said too. We're all divine. We're just cut off from our godlike natures. And by using his special techniques, we can learn how to reprogram our brain chemistry to unlock the connection to our inherent greatness and allow us to realize unlimited creativity. Now, where have I heard that before? Yada, yada. I'm telling you over and over and over again. I mean, anyway, the four foundations of his teachings is the statement, you are God. That's number one. Second is the mandate to make known the unknown. The third is the concept that consciousness and energy create the nature of reality, whatever that means. Fourth, challenge to conquer yourself. So this is what he's trying to teach people. This woman, Judith Darlene Hampton, changed her name to J.Z. Knight after she met this Ramtha, and she is now making millions. She has a whole institute now, a school, where she teaches students everything about Ramtha and all of his lessons. And it's just all over the world. It's all over the world. These bizarre teachings are in 22 countries. She right now lives in a 12,800 square foot home on an 80-acre compound in Washington. People are buying into this stuff, Jack. You would think a 35,000-year-old spiritual entity named Ramtha who comes from Lemuria. Lemuria, that doesn't even exist. It's a popular legend. There is no Lemuria. I say to myself so often, what are people doing on the internet? Because you could find this in one click of a mouse. That's all you need. 2 minutes. And you could have found this information out. That this is some guy who appeared in the kitchen of somebody's trailer home In 1977 is when he first appeared to her and her husband, and talks like this. I mean, who believes this stuff? I just think it's funny. I just think it's ridiculous. But look how many people are buying into it. You know, and he teaches stuff about, oh, there's coming catastrophes on Earth, floods, earthquakes, and epidemics. Well, when has there ever been a time in the history of the world that we haven't had floods, earthquakes, and epidemics? We always do. He's telling people, build your underground bunkers, store up to 2 years worth of food and water to prepare for these events. It's like, oh, come on. But Time magazine in 1987 actually proclaimed Jay-Z Knight as the most celebrated of all channelers.
Oh, word.
I know.
You know, it's amazing, as you pointed out, that people are falling for this in great numbers. But Anna, who's watching us on YouTube, she said, Ramtha, sounds like a creature that fights Godzilla.
I love it. Truly it is.
And that's exactly what it does sound like. It's, well, pray the rosary and stay close to Jesus, for crying out loud.
Exactly. And that's the only enlightenment. Why don't you want to be enlightened about God, the creator of the universe? That's who I want to be enlightened about. But I did find there's actually a whole website out there called Enlighten Me Free. And it's about the people who were involved in this Ramtha group and bought into all this stuff and went to her teaching place and all that kind of stuff, her Ramtha Institute. And they say it's a cult. One woman wrote, she's 47 years old.
So these are folks that have broken away.
They broke away from it. They were injured by it. And she said that that she went into shock, this one, when she first read her website created by former students. And then they were talking about how brainwashed they were. And she thought to herself, that's me. I've been brainwashed too. She's been in treatment for anxiety and post-traumatic stress disorder ever since that time. She was so freaked out by that, by what they were saying, because she had bought into it. And somehow or another, she stumbled onto this website from people who had been in it and said, hey, this is all, a bunch of bunk. Don't get involved in this. For 19 years, she believed all those pronouncements about the underground bunkers, and to keep the teaching secret, repress her feelings about them. And now she said she believes she was under a type of spell. She said no one spoke out before this. She said perhaps people's minds are getting twisted and bent, and it's a really arduous journey back. And Knight was also caught at one point in a very vicious anti-Catholic rant. She was going on and on about the church. I mean, it was expletive laced. I can't even repeat it all, but she said in there, we will come on you in a terror. We will bring St. Peter's temple down and we will swallow it in the sea. This is what this Ramtha loving woman, Jay-Z Knight, was threatening the church with this thing that she's channeling.
Still got time for your calls. 833-288 EWTN is our toll-free number. It's a free phone call anywhere in the United States and Canada. That's 833-288-3986. If for some reason you can't call right now, if you call that same number after 4 p.m. Eastern Time, you'll get our listener comment line, and you can leave your question for Sue Brinkmann on that line. And let's take a listen to one of those calls right now.
Hi, my name is Laura. My question is, has the speaker ever heard of John of God in Brazil? I went to John of God, and it was a weird experience. I don't believe in John of God, but yet everybody in Albania heard of him, and some people were cured by him. But if I wouldn't want to confuse anybody with the subject, but he was doing cures and whatnot. For example, the lady who was the secretary of the hotel I stayed at, she said he cured her throat. But I thought he was Catholic before I went because there was Sacred Heart pictures in his so-called chapel. And I'll be listening. Bye.
What do you know about John of God, Sue?
Oh, dear, dear, dear. John of God is right now in trouble for sexual assault. There are over 200 complaints have been made to law enforcement against this supposed healer. although he's claiming his innocence, these allegations are all being investigated about him. John of God, he's a psychic healer practicing in Brazil for decades, duping the likes of presidents, movie stars. He's very famous, Jack. This guy was very famous in his day, claiming to be a miraculous healer. Uses classic carnival tricks on his patients, such as sticking forceps up the nostrils, scraping their eyeballs, which sounds terrible, but this is the carnival trick. You know, this is supposedly to cure serious ailments like cancer and malignant tumors. Now, this guy isn't even a doctor. He was born in 1942. He was thrown out of school in the 2nd grade, very rebellious. He was 16 when he claimed that the entity of King Solomon entered his body and performed a miraculous healing. And he began to wander Brazil, offering healings to all these people. And at some point in his dubious career, his spirit guide told him to expand this practice. And he responded by going to a nearby town and sitting in a chair alongside the road. And people began to come to him for healing, and then he would heal them. Of course, this is all placebo effect, but they believed they were healed by him. So his hospital, which has a long Spanish name to it, it's been visited by millions of people, including the usual gullible Hollywood types, Shirley MacLaine, and of course representatives of Oprah Winfrey's show. They all came away awed by his power, and it's just it's terrible, the stuff that he was doing to people, and he would have long lines out there. They believed that he was healing them, but then all of a sudden, a Dutch choreographer accused him of sexual assault while she was there, and her TV station, which wasn't too smart that he did that with a journalist, if you think about it. I mean, you really don't want to do that kind of thing. They spent 3 months investigating, and they turned up dozens of other women who said they had also been abused by him. And from there, the floodgates just opened. And now there's more than 200 complaints against this man. So, he is an imposter. He is not healing you. He's using circus tricks. It's just it's very sad, and it sounds like the caller. She had a weird experience. I wish she would have said what that experience was, because that's what you're going to get from somebody like John of God. This guy is not to be taken seriously, and now we find out that he's got a lot of criminal stuff against him, and he's claiming to be innocent of it, and they are still looking into all of that. But, he claims that he can scrape away cataracts and eye tumors with a knife. He can remove breast cancer with a small incision. He can make the crippled walk with just a touch of his hand. He has like a miracle room, a meditation room, he calls it, that's stacked with his discarded crutches and stuff like that. And he claims, that this is all happening. He's the miracle man. So, I don't know what to tell the woman other than to say that to keep everybody that she knows of away from him. He is more than likely, if they're thinking that they've been healed, they have not been healed. They have some kind of a counterfeit healing. Satan's obviously there, because he said that he was infested by the entity of King Solomon, entered his body, and that's where he got all of his power from. Do you really want somebody like that laying hands on you? I would have to say, I don't think so. I think that we need to stay away from John of God, and he's got a lot of problems out there right now too. Besides the fact that he's a charlatan, he's in trouble with the law. So I would stay far away from him.
I want to invite you to join us for the Bear Wozniak Adventure, Saturday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Bear challenges men to deeper conversion and to servant leadership. That's the Bear Wozniak Adventure, Saturday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on EWTN Radio. We always tell you that real men listen to women of grace. Well, real women can listen to the Bear Wozniak Adventure also, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday night. We've got another listener comment line call we'd like to take a listen to.
Hello, my name is Tracy. I am calling from Boise, Idaho, and I was just listening to Johnette on Women of Grace share about her son Simon, and that he passed at 1:01 a.m. and how she sees that those numbers frequently in multiple places. And I just wanted to share with her that I do as well. My brother is still living, but he was born at 3:39 p.m. in the afternoon. He needs prayers. He's away from the church, and so I will very often see 339, whether it's, how much time is left on a football game when I look up at the score, or it's when I look at my oven and that's how much time is left when I'm baking something. I see it in my car on my trip odometer. But I just wanted to let Johnette know that, and that I will pray for Simon, and that I ask her to pray for my brother Jeff. Thank you.
What do you think, Sue?
Well, that is so kind of her to offer to pray for Simon, and we'll all pray for her brother Jack for sure. But yeah, this whole idea that there's some kind of special mystical meaning in seeing a same number all the time really has its link to the occult art of numerology, which is the use of numbers to divine future events of some kind. And that there's different theories about it, especially about the number 11, that it's a master number. And when it's paired with another 11, it means that your spirit guides are trying to contact you. Others say that seeing these numbers, it's a sign of spiritual awakening or confirmation that you're on the right path. Others still believe that that's a sign that angels are near you. So there's a whole lot of superstitious beliefs in seeing these repetitive numbers, and I would want to stay away from that. And any kind of thinking, I would shut that down immediately. Any kind of thinking, superstitious type thinking about that. When you see a certain number, such as the 339 that was mentioned in that's to say a prayer for your brother. And 101, as Johnette said, she knows then she just prays for Simon. So that's all we really need to do about that. I see the number 333 a lot. And in fact, we talked about this, I think, last week on the show. And that night, I woke up at 3:33 a.m. And I laughed. I laughed out loud, and I said, okay, Lord, I'm praying to you at this moment of 333. Let it remind you to pray, not to have any superstitious belief that your spirit guides are trying to contact you, that you're having a spiritual awakening or anything like that. It's just take it as a reminder that you need to pray for these people, and don't slide into superstition. You can see, though, by this how easy that would be to do, don't you think, Jack?
Yeah,
I mean, if you were to
sure.
see it, it's very easy to think that, but you've got to be careful not to do it. And who's to say that the devil's not waking me up at 3:33 a.m.? He can do that. That's so easy for him. It's a cakewalk. That he doesn't have that happen to other people. Why? Because he's trying to lead you into believing something more is happening to you at that point, and that someone's trying to contact you, and that person is other than God. Because that's always what his MO is to lead you away from God. And he'll use any tactic he can. And usually for people who are devout, he knows he can't do anything really too overt to get you to turn toward him. He's going to do it in covert ways. And these are one of the ways. It sounds innocent, doesn't it? A 339, something about with her brother Jack, or 101 with Johnette and Simon. And I think just be very careful not to slide into the superstitious thought, to take that number that you're seeing repeatedly and use it as a reminder to pray to God, because then you're beating Satan at his own game, and he's gonna stop it pretty soon when he finds out that forget the number thing, all she ever does is pray to God. So I'll have to try some other trick on her.
The first thing I thought of when Tracy said when her brother was born was that's the hour of mercy. And
yes,
that can just be a reminder to her to, while he's away from the church now, she can rely on God's infinite mercy to bring him back one day, huh?
I think that's a beautiful way of thinking about it, and also to offer up that chaplet for him at that time whenever she sees it. I think that's a great idea. Jack,
well, Sue, thanks as always for being so gracious with your time on Wacky Wednesday.
Thanks for having me.
On behalf of our very special Wacky Wednesday guest, Sue Brinkmann, our producer, Jeff Burson, call screener Matt Gubensky, and our social media maven, also Mr. Jeff Burson, magnificent person. I'm Jack Williams, sitting in for Johnette. Keep her in your prayers that she feels better soon. And we will be back at it tomorrow with a Thursday edition of Women of Grace. God bless.
Sometimes we may be asked by those who don't pray on a regular basis, why should we pray, or why do we pray? Well, I pray to